What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about some basics of just juicing. Over the weekend I got a few questions on just kind of breaking down juicing in general. So today we're going to go over a few things that I think will be helpful to you guys. And this is applicable to at-home juicers and juice business owners, whether you're starting your juicery or you're already in the full swing of things. So definitely grab a notepad and paper. There's going to be a lot of pro tips in this video, and I think they'll be really helpful to you guys. We're going to be talking about the three different components that make up each juice. So the liquid base, herbs and superfoods, and then the last category in that is lemon, or something that helps to keep it from oxidizing. We're also going to be talking about serving size depending on what juicer you're working on, and just some basic pro tips of juicing in general. So grab a pen and paper and we're going to dive into this video. Hopefully it doesn't go too long and lengthy. If you guys are new here, welcome to our juicery. My sister and I operate a juicery out of Northwest Ohio. You can find all our info and tag, all the things, all the social medias linked down below. But we have been in business for 5 years, going on 6 now. We started out of a farmer's market, upgraded to a juice truck, and then last August we opened this storefront. You can watch the whole renovation as well as our journey here on YouTube. We share all the behind the scenes of what we're doing. So obviously right now we are at the juicery. These are our commercial cold press juice machines. This one is a X1, Good Nature X1. This can make up to 1,000 juices a day. This is our X1 Mini. This juicer can make 100 juices a day, around 100. And then at home I use a slow masticating juicer, and you can check out playlists on all of these juicers in action if you want to see what they're kind of capable of and what it actually looks like to juice on these machines. At the end of this video we are going to be making a custom recipe that kind of helps break down everything that we talk about today. The main question I got is how do you make juices in batches? What batch size do I use? How do I know how much to make? I don't want to overmake juice. And we are going to dive into liquid bases, which is the determining factor of kind of what your juice is mainly made of, is the liquid base. So a good safe rule of thumb is for every 1 pound of produce, you're going to get about 10 ounces of juice. First and foremost, you need to figure out how much juice you're making, and that will determine what we weigh out, kind of portion out. If I need to make a batch of 12 juices, 10 to 12 juices, I'm going to weigh out around 14 pounds of produce. So for every 1 pound of produce, we're going to get about 10 ounces of juice. So if you just want to make one juice, you're going to need about 1 pound of produce. And there's 2 types of liquid bases. There's going to be things that are low carb, and there's going to be things that are fruit, so basically fruits or veggies, and you can do a mixture of these things. Celery and cucumbers are some of the most popular strong juice bases, so these are going to have little to no carbs or fructose. Apples and oranges are obviously going to be way higher in fructose. It's going to be a much sweeter juice. So if you walk into a juicery and you're looking for a juice, you might see something labeled as a strong green or a sweet green. Depending on which one you pick up, the stronger juices are probably going to be cucumber or celery based, and the sweeter juices are going to be an apple or an orange or even like a pineapple. Then you can obviously mix these 2 together, so you could do celery and apple. If you were at home making one juice, you would want to weigh out a pound of produce, and most of that pound I would weigh out a pound of your liquid base. The herbs and superfoods are going to add a little bit of weight, but not much. Once we have our liquid base weighed out and portioned, we can then go in adding our superfoods, our flavor components, our things that give our juice a little bit of oomph. I have 4 here laid out. A good safe rule of thumb is that 1 serving of superfoods per 4 to 5 juices is kind of what I go off of. And this depends on whether you're juicing at home or whether you're a juicery looking at profit margins and all that stuff. But a good safe rule of thumb is like 1 beet per 4 to 5 juices, 1 herb serving. So 1 bunch of kale or 1 bunch of parsley, 1 bulb of fennel per 4 to 5 juices. And if you're an at-home juicer, you can obviously portion these things as much as you want. Like at home, when I juice, I add a ton of ginger to my juices because ginger is so cheap at the grocery store. It's cents per pound, so I always go heavy on those. I also grow a lot of my own herbs, so I'll go really heavy on the parsley, the mint, things like that. So there's variables into all of this, but this is a good place to start, and you can taste it and kind of see where you want to go from there. Turmeric is great for inflammation. Beets are full of nitrates, which there's tons of research done on the nitrates in beets. It's great for lowering your blood pressure, and you can obviously make juices specifically tailored to what you want to market and advertise. Fennel is great for digestion, and using herbs is a great way to flavor your strong juices without adding extra fructose. We like to load up our strong juices with tons of herbs and flavor, and it really gives them a wow factor without having to add a ton of fructose in them and make them super sweet tasting. This category of herbs and superfoods is often going to be what colors your juices. So taking into account your liquid base with the color of the superfoods, obviously turmeric is going to be very bright and a neon orange color. We don't necessarily want to pair that with a green liquid base like celery. So you'll see a lot of juiceries and juice recipes where turmeric is paired with oranges or carrots or citrus because they're in the same color category. Cucumbers are a good neutral liquid base that won't color conflict with things, and apples are another great one that won't color conflict. Low carb option and a high fructose option. You can pair those with anything. So the last category, so we talked about liquid bases, we've talked about the superfoods, color components, herbs, things like that that are going to flavor your juice and give them their nutritional identity. The last category is lemon. This is going to help preserve your juice, brighten up the flavors, extend the shelf life. Lemon is in every juice recipe like ever created. Obviously you can make juices without lemon, but this is an easy way to help keep your juices from oxidizing so quickly. If you're juicing a ton of apples, definitely add lemon to them. This is going to help keep your apples from turning brown. Same thing with carrots. This is going to help keep things from oxidizing super fast. It's very similar to if you slice up an apple and squeeze lemon juice in it and put it in the fridge for lunch or something. Same thing here. If you're an at-home juicer and looking for an alternative, a cheaper alternative, just grab a bottle of apple cider vinegar. You can add a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar per juice serving. It'll kind of do the same thing, and you don't have to spend a ton of money on lemons. Lemon is the only citrus rind that we leave on. Oranges and grapefruit we remove because there is so much pectin in those rinds. The white pith, I think it's called, of the grapefruit and orange will actually turn the juice to jello. If there's enough pectin in that recipe, it'll jellify. So lemons are safe to leave on. I don't notice a flavor. I get a lot of questions about if the lemon rind is too bitter and acidic. We don't have any problems with it here. And it also saves a lot of time just not having to cut the lemon rind off. Even at home juicing, I leave the lemon rind on. As far as serving size goes, I try to include, I portion it like a superfood or an herb, so 1 to every 4 to 5 juices. If you're making like a lemonade, a watermelon lemonade, or something that you want really heavy lemon flavor on, we go up to 1 lemon per serving. That just depends on how much you want to spend on lemons, what kind of flavor you're going for, how big of a component you want that lemon to be a part of the recipe. But you only need a little bit, especially with the rind on, to help with that oxidizing. When I'm juicing, like our sweet green, for example, has a ton of apples. It's just apple, lemon, and kale. I will cut up and divide the lemon per press cycle. So batch size determines on the size of the press chamber. So we can weigh out the amount of produce and juices that we need to make, but we can press them in 3 to 5 pound batches on the mini, and I would say, don't quote me on that, but probably 20 pounds of produce on the X1. You may weigh out 20 pounds of produce to make 15 to 20 juices. Is that right? Is that the right math? This gets me every time. 10 ounces of juice per pound. Yeah, that's right. But then you have to juice in 3 to 5 pound press cycles on the mini, or just slowly run things through your masticating juicers at home. Or I'm not sure what the Norwalk, I've never used a Norwalk, so I can't speak to that. I get a lot of messages from you guys that are using Norwalk juicers and looking for just questions on batch sizes and answers relating to how can I make more juice. Definitely lowering your serving size is going to be game changing. If you're serving a 16-ounce juice on a juicer that takes a long time to make juice, you're obviously going to be spending a lot longer time juicing. So I would say you could get away with lowering your serving size all the way down to 8 ounces. We find a lot that a juice is a juice, and serving size so much from 8 to 16 doesn't really matter as much as just getting a bottle of juice. You could even take it down further and serve lots of ginger shots, lots of 2-ounce like polyphenol shots, any type of shot. If you're working on a masticating juicer or a Norwalk juicer, lowering that serving size is going to give you a lot more leeway. Obviously, it's going to take a lot longer to make 216-ounce juices than it is to make 200 8-ounce juices. There's also things that are just easier to juice in general, and this can change from juicer to juicer. So masticating juicers don't handle apples that well. Masticating juicers crush and press things through a filter. So juicing a ton of apples on a masticating juicer might be harder than juicing a ton of carrots on a masticating juicer. Masticating juicers do really well with hard vegetables and leafy greens, whereas cold press machines do awesome with apples. Really knowing your juicer and playing to its strengths is going to help you save time and make a better tasting juice. Masticating juicers almost like turn apples into applesauce. It's just full of foam, and it can be frustrating. Making mixed liquid bases there would help save you a little bit of time. Highly recommend weighing out your batch cycles and just weighing out your recipes. This is going to help you get a feel for. I don't use the scale as much as I did when I first started. I still use it to weigh out our flavor components, but liquid bases I have a good feel for. And when I first started to learn juicing on the Mini, I weighed out every batch cycle, and I stuck to 3 pounds. That's a good safe measure. Carrots are one of those things you can load up to the top like a full 5-pound press cycle on the Mini, where apples and pineapple and citrus, those things are more likely to squish. There's not as much texture there to kind of grip for it's just a little different press cycle. So if you are recipe testing, if you're just getting started and trying to get a feel for what you like, get yourself a scale and start weighing out 1-pound press cycles and just start there. And then once you get a recipe that you love, all you do is scale it up to the amount of juices that you're making, whether it's for yourself for a juice cleanse or it's for your juicery. All of the weights just go up. So I keep pens and pads and paper here. We have a huge whiteboard full of information. And as you're learning and growing into these batch press cycles, you learn what a normal day looks like, how many strong beets to make, how many carrot juices to make. You'll get a feel for that as you grow. And hopefully the juicer that you have for your juicery is tailored to that kind of size. So the X1 Mini is a great starter option. A lot of you guys work with the Norwalk, and then you might get to the point where you're making huge press and batch cycles and you'll be weighing out tons of produce. All right, I think we covered everything for serving size. Oh, I wanted to go over just a few little pro tips that I've kind of gathered over the years. Citrus can be just one of those annoying things that it always breaks press bags. It's extremely squishy. It's just one of those things you got to babysit. So we only use citrus in one mixed recipe in our sweet beet, and we use it in our ginger shots. We are juicing citrus in minimal amounts. It's only in our 2-ounce ginger shots in one recipe, just because it is one of those things that's annoying to juice. We have to cut the rinds off. We have to juice it in small batches. We have to babysit the juicer when it's juicing. It's just one of those things that takes up a lot of mental time and space. Pineapple, if you guys follow us regularly, you know that we struggle with pineapple. It's extra squishy, so pairing pineapple with carrots or something that gives it a little texture to stay in that press chamber will make the process a little bit easier. Also, only doing like a quarter of the pineapple at a time will give it a good, lots of room to squish in there. And you guys have mentioned to us to just juice it on the X1. There's plenty of room for it in there to squish. You can also leave the rind on pineapple. It's got a lot of good nutrition in it, and it's not going to change the flavor of the juice. Carrots juice really well with a buddy. Lemon or green apple will keep them from turning brown. And again, carrots you can load up the press chamber with. Greens do really well run through first. Any herbs or superfoods we always like to put at the bottom of the press bag. And this is good for switching between colors and color transfer. So anything that's going to color or flavor, we like to put at the bottom of the press bag and then finish and chase it with a liquid base. So apples, cucumbers, after our beets and kale. All right, we are going to make a pineapple beet apple juice now and kind of implement some of the things that we learned. I only have a certain amount of bottles, and I only have 2 pineapples. So we're gonna weigh out this stuff and portion it, and hopefully we can land with a good recipe. If I missed something and you guys have questions, definitely leave them down in the comments, but let's get to making some juice. So I'm gonna weigh out, but first I'm gonna count my bottles. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So I have 12 ounce bottles. So I think that's 144 ounces. Divide that by 10 ounces per pound. I need about 14 pounds. Sounds like a lot, but it's really not. 14 pounds of produce, and that is prepped and ready to go produce. So I'm gonna cut the tops off the pineapples. We leave the skin on, but I'm gonna cut them off and get the beets ready, and then weigh out the apples, and then we'll see how close we get to 144 ounces. The beets are a flavor component, so 1 to 4 to 5 12-ounce juices. Those 2 pineapples right there already weigh almost 5 pounds. We are at 6 pounds, and then I'm just gonna take it all the way up to 14 pounds with the apples. This is the full batch. So anything that's going to really color the juice, we send that through first. This is also a flavor component item, so we're going to put that at the bottom of the press bag. I did descale the hopper chamber in the plunger yesterday. It's working a lot better today. I do think it was the dishwasher did shrink it a little bit. I'm getting a little suction when I grind kale, but nothing like it was. So I think just needs descaled fairly regularly, which is obvious maintenance, but we'll be pairing pineapple with every batch of apples, not adding lemon to this, so the pineapple should help kind of keep things from oxidizing. If this wasn't colored by the beets, I would definitely be adding some lemon just to help keep that from browning. So pretty. Last few tips as far as bottling and straining. I always strain my juice, whether it's at home or here at the shop. Things are going to fall out of the hopper onto that juice tray. Bags are going to break. It's just a nice, safe, fast peace of mind that is going to catch anything that falls through this. And then every few bottles, you'll always see me stirring the juice just to make sure things do settle out. And as you're bottling, especially a lot of juices, all of that stuff will settle, like all your greens will settle to the bottom. So every 4, and I work in batches of 4 because that's what I can carry to the front. Every 4 bottles, I'm re-stirring the 3-gallon pitcher. Last press cycle, you can see that the beet color has worked its way all the way out. So even if you did juice a beet juice, you'd still be able to jump straight into another color juice. And I think we're going to be right on with our 144 ounces. You get really good at eyeballing the level of juice in there. It's marked somewhere on here, but I can always, like 1 inch in this 3-gallon pitcher, which is on webstaurantstore.com, is about 6 to 7 juices. We're gonna be right on. We were right on. The strainer also does a good job at catching the foam, especially for pineapple, or if you're working on a Kuvings masticating juicer, the apples like actually get crushed instead of pressed, so you'll get a lot of foam with apples. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this video. If you have any more questions, leave them down in the comments. We will see you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye!